Our next guest says it would be a shame if hedge funds became primarily associated with insider trading. Sebastian Mallaby is the author of the book More Money Than God, Hedge Funds and the Making of the New Elite. He's also a senior fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations and a Washington Post columnist. Thanks, Sebastian, for joining us. It's interesting, you know, Jim Chanos was just on the program with us, and he said he thinks 99.9% of these guys are honest and will go the other way if they get a piece of information that they think is too good to trade on. Do you agree?
You know, I think it's probably true that 99% of the people in the hedge fund space are not taking insider trading tips. I mean, after all, you've got people doing macro. You've got people doing, credit strategies. You've got all kinds of different strategies out there where insider trading rules just don't apply in the first place, right? So by definition, it's completely wrong to say that hedge funds are outperforming as an asset class, because they've got, illegal information. That's just flat out wrong. On the other hand, it's true that in the stock picking subcategory of hedge funds, you've got aggressive people trying to make money, trying to outperform, and the performance fee creates a temptation to bend the rules. And back in 1966, when there was an insider trading scandal involving Douglas Aircraft, the SEC went after 13 investors, and at that time, 6 of the 13 were hedge funds, even though this was the infancy of the hedge fund industry back in the 1960s, when most people don't realize there was even such a thing as a hedge fund industry. So I'm kind of in the middle. I mean, I think that I wouldn't go quite as far as Jim Chanos.
But, well, how far would you go then, Sebastian?
Well, what I would say, what I feel very strongly about is that it would be ridiculous, if because of the scandal, and even if because we find that some hedge fund traders were guilty of taking illegal information, that we therefore conclude that hedge funds are a bad thing, we ought to clamp down on them. And the reason I say ridiculous, is a strong word, but I mean it, is that relative to systemic risk, the kind of stuff that happened with Lehman Brothers in 2008, when the whole world economy was blown up by the financial sector, insider trading is like a parking infraction, right? Milton Friedman made the argument that you shouldn't even prosecute it. Now, I don't go that far. I think it's illegal, it's against the law, you should prosecute it, right? But it simply is not as serious as the big systemic risk issue. And I think with respect to systemic risk, hedge funds reduce it. They're not too big to fail. They're small enough to fail. That's why 10,000 hedge funds went bust in the last decade, and not a single one took a single cent of taxpayer money. So I think that's the big value in hedge funds, which we must not lose sight of.
All right, and that's, I guess, a good point, because, Sebastian, you say it would be a shame if they became primarily associated, with this insider trading investigation. If they are a primary target here, what could be the fallout in your view?
Well, the fallout could be, for example, that the new Financial Stability Oversight Committee, which is being set up as part of the Dodd-Frank law, which has discretion, right, to choose which kinds of financial companies it wants to demand information from, which kind it's going to, hassle with extra burdens of oversight. If hedge funds are politically in the doghouse because of insider trading, that may put pressure on the systemic regulators to show that they are serious vis-a-vis hedge funds. And that would be a mistake, because it increases the burden of compliance for smaller hedge funds, makes it less likely that you'll get lots of new hedge funds springing up, and that's bad. We want the smaller hedge funds. These guys are the small enough to fail antidote to too big to fail systemic risk.
Do you expect, though, hedge funds to get pulled into this? I mean, we've seen the police raid or at least go to the offices of a number of hedge funds, but they haven't made any arrests on that side of the equation.
Well, I think when the whole thing is done, I kind of agree with what John Coffey said in your program earlier. It would be surprising if there was zero fallout for hedge fund traders. It's a big sector. There are a lot of people with aggressive attempts to outperform the market. There's got to be some bad apples somewhere, is my guess. I don't know that. But my point is that even if there are bad apples, we should not throw out the whole barrel.